Hey guys, I'm Lynzie. Today I want to tell you about the missing persons case of Mikelle Biggs. Come with me and I'll tell you her story. The iconic jingle of an ice cream truck. A sound that children have anticipated for decades upon decades. Mouths watering, children running with their change in their pockets and smiles on their faces. It brings instant joy to children all across the neighborhood. But on the evening of January 2nd, 1999, this sound brought no joy to the streets of Mesa, Arizona, and has left the Biggs family searching for answers for 24 years. Mikelle Biggs was born on May 31st, 1987. She had big dreams of becoming a Disney animator when she grows up. Mikelle was also very smart and musically talented. She loved to play the clarinet and was an honor student in her 6th grade class. Her parents were very proud of her, and they hoped that Mikelle could have done great things. Mikelle was 11 years old when she went missing. She is Caucasian and was 4 foot 8 inches tall, weighing 65 pounds. She has brown hair and hazel eyes. She would be 35 years old today. Just before dusk on January 2nd, Mikelle and her younger sister, Kimber, were outside riding Kimber's new bike in their seemingly quiet, peaceful neighborhood. The girls heard the sound of the ice cream truck in the distance. The street lights were beginning to flicker, but the girls decided to wait a few more minutes for the truck to come onto their street. Mikelle was holding 2 quarters that her mother had given her. As they were waiting for the truck to be in sight, Kimber started to get cold, so she told Mikelle that she was going to run home and grab her coat and that she'd be right back. Little did Kimber know this would be the last time that she would see her sister. Kimber said it took her just over a minute, 90 seconds, and when she came back, Mikelle was gone. The bike Mikelle was riding was still in the road, and the wheels were still spinning, like someone had plucked her off her bike in seconds. Kimber picked up her bike and shouted her sister's name. She hoped she would come out, but when she didn't appear, Kimber ran home and told her mother that Mikelle wasn't out there. Tracy, their mother, asked Kimber to go check at their neighbors, the Millers, where the girls would often visit. However, when Kimber knocked on the Millers' door, Mikelle was not there either. At this point, the oldest Miller's son joined Kimber in searching for Mikelle. They found the 2 quarters Mikelle had been holding, lying in the street where her bike was found. The boy immediately told Kimber to go home and tell her mother that they could not find her. After a panicked search of the neighborhood yielded no signs of Mikelle, Tracy called 911 and reported her daughter missing at 6:15 p.m. Police responded immediately, and they realized from the start that they were most likely dealing with an abduction. It appeared that Mikelle had tried to start pedaling towards her home, and she was snatched right off her bike before she made it very far from the street corner. A mass search began. Police started checking garbage cans. They knocked on the doors of several houses and questioned neighbors. There seemed to be no witness at the time Mikelle disappeared. Detectives worked closely with Kimber to retrace her steps on a cold January day to find out how long Kimber had left her sister. It took about 90 seconds for Kimber to return from her family home to where she had left her sister. The search and investigation continued. Police named their first suspect, Mikelle's father, Darian Biggs. Police found that Darian's allegations about his whereabouts at the time of his daughter's disappearance were false. Darian claimed he was at work when his wife called to say Mikelle was gone. It later turns out that Darian was at his friend's house. It was cleared fairly quickly, but it still aroused people's suspicions. He was described as a loner, and it seemed like he was judged based on that. There was also no physical evidence of where Mikelle could have gone or who could have taken her. Turns out, no one else saw or heard an ice cream truck that day. What if someone was just playing the tune in hopes of luring a child out to the street where they could pounce on the opportunity to snatch them up? Alert to the possibility of a child predator, Police right away compiled a list of all registered sex offenders in the neighborhood and began to knock on doors. One of them, a part-time landscaper and handyman, D. Blaylock, lived across the street from where Mikelle took piano lessons and a few doors from the home of Mikelle's best friend. During the small window of time that police believed Mikelle was abducted, according to Blaylock, he had been watching a football game on the TV in his garage. His wife backed him up, and when he let police inside his home, they found nothing. 9 months after Mikelle's disappearance, Dee was arrested after a violent attack on a female neighbor. He had been waiting in her house when she returned home one night, and he put her in a chokehold before beating and assaulting her. He most likely believed that the woman was dead, but she regained consciousness after he left and was able to identify him to police. He is currently in jail, serving 187-year sentence for the offense. The neighbor told Mikelle's mom that intuition led her to believe that Blaylock had abducted her daughter. Blaylock's victim was so convinced that he had taken Mikelle that she told police that she would drop all charges against him if he would just tell them where Mikelle was. Investigators went back to speak with Blaylock's wife about his alibi that night. She revealed to police that she behaved as her husband dictated, and that after she delivered sandwiches to him in their garage that day Mikelle vanished, he told his wife to stay away and leave him alone. Thus, she couldn't actually account for her husband's whereabouts during the hour Mikelle was taken. Everything in my eyes points in one direction, and that is D. Blaylock, says investigators. But I think it's equally important that we say it could be someone else. Until the killer, if it's not him, comes forward and leads us to her body, we may never get those answers. Blaylock denies having anything to do with her disappearance. That didn't stop Mikelle's parents, Tracy and Darian Biggs, from meeting with Blaylock in prison to ask whether he did. Of course, his reply was no, says Tracy. He claimed to have a split personality. At one point, he made a comment that he can't be held responsible for what his other personality does. I just kind of thought, yeah, you're crazy. You can too be held responsible, she says. Even though we have no way of knowing, unless he confesses, whether or not he was responsible in Mikelle's case, Blaylock will spend the rest of his life in prison. He still has convictions of child molestation, and even in prison, prisoners don't take lightly to that. On March 14th, 2018, a dollar bill was turned in to the Neenah, Wisconsin police. The dollar bill said, "My name is Mikelle Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa. I'm alive." Once this information was brought to the attention of Mikelle's family, they knew it was false. Kimber said, "I remember looking at it, and the fact that her name was misspelled, and the handwriting. It just didn't look like her handwriting. To me, it looked like someone was trying to write like a child." The dollar bill had been printed in 2009. Mikelle would have been 21 years old at that time. But the writing looks like it had been written by a child, and the first name was spelled wrong. For those reasons, detectives believe it is likely a hoax. Unfortunately, even if it is not a hoax, there is virtually no way for them to trace where the dollar bill might have been before it appeared in Wisconsin. Who would do such a thing to a family who had been searching for their daughter and sister for so long? As the years passed and leads dried up, the case went cold. Mikelle is still missing 24 years later, and the case remains unsolved. Kimber, her sister, who was the last person to see her riding off, says they will never give up looking. "We have no answers. There's nothing. We have theories, but theories don't give you peace. I figure the more people that see me begging and fighting for answers, the more likely it's going to reach more people and get to someone who actually knows something," said Kimber. She still has her sister's favorite bear, and everyone has clung to it while they hope one day to find some answers. Mikelle Biggs was 11 years old when she went missing in 1999. She has brown hair and hazel eyes, and at the time of her disappearance, she was 4 feet 8 inches tall and weighed 65 pounds. She was last seen wearing bell-bottom style blue jeans with embroidered seams running down the outside of each leg, a red t-shirt, and white canvas shoes. She had several moles on the side of her neck, and her ears were pierced. If you have any information about Mikelle, please call the Mesa Police Department at 480-644-2211. Thanks so much for watching my video. Be sure to subscribe and come along with me and hear more missing persons cases. Here's another video to check out in case you missed it, and here's a playlist of all of my videos.